Do you enjoy quilting for special events, maybe with a theme in mind and creating an ensemble of multiple items that can sort of enhance the entire event and keep everybody engaged with what's going on? This is what I'm working on right now, and I'm Lea Louise from Inspired Quilting by Lea Louise. My theme is of a patriotic nature in red, white, and blue, and you can see the quilt behind me is exactly that, in the double rail fence. Oh my goodness, it's so easy, it's quick, and the pattern is free. You'll love it. Plus, there are a number of other items that you are really going to enjoy. They're customizable, they can be personalized, and you can adjust them to fit any kind of event that you have. So I'm really excited to share this with you. So let me go ahead and get started. I want to show you what we're making today. Patriotic holidays are fun to celebrate, and what makes it even more exciting is to have little bits and pieces that you can add just for some color and some interest and just to get people excited. So this is what I'm going to show you how I want to make today, and it's an adorable It's a blue jean pocket. It's an adorable little container, essentially. The idea being that we take a pocket, we make a rag quilt, and it becomes a receptacle for something. And what I did is put the pinwheels in here. You know, the little pinwheels you can just blow on and they spin, with some boxes of sparklers and just, fun things to set at a table. You can use it as table setting to put napkins and silverware in. You can use it for gifts. You can put a little string on it and make a purse. It's just a fun project. So I'm going to show you how to do this with a pair of blue jeans. And I have some different ones that I just want to go through and share how they worked. Now, this is another fun one. And while I didn't do it in the patriotic red, white, and blue, you can do this with whatever you have. And again, all of these can be themed for whatever you're celebrating. It can be fun for birthdays. Now, let's say you have a backyard birthday or having a picnic or going to the beach. It's nice to have everything in one place. So here again, the blue jean pocket, and we do some strip sewing here to create little areas where we can put silverware. There's a strap to hold a napkin, and you just fold it up. Whoops, go from this side, and the ties will hold it together. Now, there is I can't even tie and talk at the same time. There is a free tutorial for this one online. I'm going to put that down in the description. So if you want to get the free tutorial to make this, then I will have that link below. Now, this is something else that is so much fun. And it starts off like this. It's just, two pieces. I sort of do raw edge applique, which we did some of that a couple weeks ago. I'll link that above so you can take a look at that. But raw edge applique is quick and easy and so forgiving. And you can make these any size. I initially was making a postcard out of this and realized I had it a bit too wide. So while I can still trim it down and use this, I went with another design in the appropriate size. So I took my fabric, I cut some fun pieces, did the raw edge applique, which you can see up close. It's just sewing around the edge. It's very simple to do. And then for some fun, I used a fusible fabric on the back. Now what I did is I made a printable page and I divided it into 4 little areas so I could make postcard backs. And I put Happy Labor Day and from Lee and Peter with a little stamp, and then you can just put a little message here or just put the address and say love you or thinking of you. It doesn't have to be elaborate, but the fun thing is they'll receive this great postcard. But what I really love is think of all the postal workers who'll see this. I bet it'll bring a smile to their face. I do want to show you. I have a page that you can download. Actually, I think it's 5 pages of free quilt labels that can also be used in this manner. But I do have a download instruction on how to make a backing like this with the Steam-A-Seam product, Steam-A-Seam 2 that holds it together, and the printable fabrics. So I'm going to link all this below for you, as well as the website, so you can go to my sites and see the tutorial. Once everything is cut to size, you have your postcard backing, you have a piece of Steam-A-Seam 2, and then on the top, you're going to have your little mini quilt, your postcard. And you want that Steam-A-Seam between the two layers. What's really important, and I forgot about on this one, I wasn't even thinking, is you want to make sure when you're pressing that this fabric is on the bottom and you press from the top. Now, what happens if you don't do that? Oh my goodness, look at this. It got scorched because I pressed directly on the fabric. And this fabric is treated so it can receive ink, and it's tightly woven, and it's a little bit, what do I want to say? It doesn't take the super high heat directly. Now, you could certainly put a ironing cloth, a pressing cloth on top. That works, but it's just as easy to do it from the front. And because the Steam-A-Seam is between the two layers, it's going to adhere, and it does not come apart. The beauty of the Steam-A-Seam, yes, I know, I love it. And I have a link for that below. I use it a lot when I'm doing any kind of applique, but particularly raw edge. It's temporary initially, but then when you press it, that means you can lift it up and move it around if you don't like where it is. But then once you press it, it's permanent and it doesn't go anywhere. I love it. The best part is as long as you heat it enough, it needs high heat for, I forget, I think it's either 10 or 20 seconds, whatever it is. It's all in the instructions. You leave your eye in there for that amount of time, then the adhesive actually, it melts essentially, and it connects the pieces together. Now, it does not affect the feel of the fabric. You don't feel glue. But even more important for me is that when I'm sewing, if I go back after and do more sewing, none of that gunk gets stuck in my needle. If you've ever used transfers and things like that, it has sticky stuff that gets caught in the needle, in the eye of the needle, on the side of the needle, and it makes it really hard to sew because then your thread gets all messy and it's fussiness. So I'm just telling you what works for me. I love it, and I'm excited to share this with you. But now what I want to do is show you this. Oh, there is one more thing. Hold on one moment. Every holiday needs a quilt, and if we're going to quilt for the holiday, it needs to be quick and easy because we have table accessories and decorations and invitations to send. And there's just so much work. Oh, not to mention the cooking. Yes, we may be barbecuing, grilling outside, making potato salad, macaroni salad, whatever salads we like. Oh, don't forget the coleslaw. In the South, the coleslaw is a must everywhere. But we need to have a little light quilt. You know, maybe Aunt May or somebody's going to be sitting on the porch and they get a little chilly in the shade, and we want to give a quilt on their lap, or we want to put a decorative quilt over a chair just to add some ambiance and more patriotic theme. Well, here's a quick and easy quilt. It's a double rail fence, but it's just one single block. So you cut your strips. I use 2.5, and they sew down. They finish at 2-inch strips. So this is 6. So it's a 6.5 by 6.5 block. It cuts, or it finishes down to 6 inches. But what you can do is, if you buy yardage, you can use strips of fabric and just cut, the whole width of fabric, and then cross cut into your 6.5-inch strips. Also, think jelly rolls. Oh my goodness, there are some fabulous themed fabrics out there for holidays and different events, and you can make a quilt simple with this pattern with any kind of strips. And this is on the webpage. I have a free tutorial. There is a printable as well, so you can download the free printable. I just want you to have a lot of fun ideas for your next holiday, and, get creative and get the family involved. Do you have, kids who like to cut and paste, and let them cut out some designs, and they can write a message on the back, and then we can, create some fun napkins. Let the kids stuff napkins in here, or if we get the sparklers, they'll love doing that. And of course, don't forget, we've got to get our tableware, our flatware together. And I would use plastic. I just don't happen to. Actually, I did have some, but it's the real tiny stuff that wouldn't fit in here. It was left over for some takeout dinner. But that's beside the point. We will make this work. And, you could even go all the way and make some gorgeous napkins to go in here. It's just fun. And you can decide to, let people take these with them or save them for next year. If they take them with them, you don't have to worry about cleaning them. So, always think one step ahead and see how it's going to work best. But right now, what I want to show you is how we're going to make these wonderful rag quilt pockets. Rag quilt, that means easy, no extra quilting, no binding. We just have the raw edge. You're going to love it. All right, let's get started on that. Since we're doing all this rag quilting, I do want to show you one more project. This is such a fun quilt. I do not have this quilt in my possession. The one that I made was gifted, so I only have this sample, but it is photographed on my website, which I'll put that link below. And on the website, there is a tutorial that shows how this works, but I'm going to show you the quick and easy version. So what I do is I take 3 different fabrics and I layer them on top of each other. I want to have a 9-inch block for my rag quilt that will finish at 8 inches because we use 1/2-inch seams. Now, every time you add a 1/2-inch seam to your block, you need to add a full inch to your block size. So I cut it 9 by 11. Okay. Then I just randomly come in and cut them. I take one angle this way, one angle this way, and then I switch them around and I just change the layers up. So I had 3 fabrics, so I get 3 different colors. And let me get the red one. So what I'll do then is take these and sew them together. And when I sew these in, then I'm going to get my 1/2-inch seam for clipping. And so that's how that works. I just want to show you. Then you'll get 3 different blocks. Actually, it kind of goes this way. You'll get 3 different blocks with different size stripes. These are, or I should say strips. Sorry. I spell it wrong too. Stripe and strip. Oh my goodness. These are my nifty little snippers. So if you do rag quilts, this is great. And the idea is this spring is what makes the difference. It comes on and off easily. Well, it does. I just don't want to pull it right now. And then when you're using it, it bounces back, which makes it easy. It has a little clip. But let me show you how easy it is to use these for clipping your rag quilt. So you just come in and, come along every 1/4 to 3/8, up to 1/2 inch, whatever works. And you just want to leave yourself a bit of room before you get too close to that edge, because that's what's holding it together. The fraying is also going to reinforce that seam because it's less apt to pull, because essentially it's all kind of wound up together. But that's all there is to it. So rag quilting is an incredibly easy process. It's forgiving, it's fast, and oh my goodness, I love it. It's such fun. So there you go. There's lots of projects here for you to take a look at, and I'm really excited to share all this with you. The first thing we need are some blue jeans. You may already have pockets that you have cut aside. If you've made a blue jean rag quilt before, you've probably cut off the legs and you have this part of the blue jean left and you're not quite sure what to do with it. Well, I'm going to show you how we're going to make this work. And it's very simple. I'm going to just do the fast and furious method. There we go. I knew I had scissors somewhere. And I'm just going to start cutting down. Now, if you use a particular part of your blue jean as, incorporated into your quilt, then you may want to cut them in a certain way. The key is that you cut at least a 1-inch margin or seam allowance in our case around the pocket. So tell you what, let's just do this. So if I decide I need to come back and create something else with the top part of these jeans, that I have it intact, because I do like to incorporate these little pockets. So I'm not going to cut all the way here because I may need to leave a little bit of margin here. Now, if you've not made a blue jean quilt, I have a tutorial. Of course I do. I have a video I'll include up above. And what I do here is I come all the way down an inch below here, and then I just cut it straight across rather than fuss with the angle. It's just easier. I'd rather do the angle with the rotary cutter because it'll be more accurate. So here I'm going to come out an inch. But blue jean quilts are great fun, and I have a video how to make it with flannel shirts. So you go to your secondhand store, consignment, wherever you can find used clothing, and get some jeans and flannel shirts, and you can make a quilt, and it's wonderful. Oh, and the best part, there's a border in it. I love the borders, but that's what makes it even easier. There's no matching seams. Oh my gosh, it has all the tricks. So here we are. This is it. We need this, and we need some fabric for decoration, and we need some fabric for the front of the pocket, and we need a little something to create our stars. I have it here somewhere. I will find that. So I'm going to pull all that together as soon as I'm finished talking. But what I also want to show you is, in addition to this, a full-size pair of jeans, you can also use shorts. And, you know, it's the summer, you get the shorts out. Maybe the kids, or maybe, I don't know, some of us don't quite fit in the shorts the way we used to. Now, these are teeny tiny shorts. These are kids' shorts. And so they are quite small. But you can do the same thing here. Just cut this out, and you've got your base to make a pocket, and you can even do it with a placket. You would just want to make sure you leave that inch up here. And it's a lot of fun. You can do so much with these. So let me get everything together, and I'm going to show you at the machine just what we're going to do to make this. You'll be surprised at just how quick and easy it is. Before we get to the sewing machine, let me show you how I cut this. It'll just be easier to do it here. Now, this pocket is a little stretchy, or excuse me, a little distorted. It's a little twisted, so I'm going to kind of give it a stretch. You know, it's hard to buy denim nowadays as far as blue jeans that don't have the stretch in it, but that's okay. We can certainly make it work. So I'm going to make this straight, put the sides straight, and this will be, see how I can tug this and it'll sort of square itself up, and you can see that it's on the bias. This fabric under here is on the bias. The pocket is on the straight cut. So with that being said, we just want to kind of place it in the way that it's going to look best. We want to make sure this top edge is not a selvage. And then what we're going to do is just come in again. I only need an inch, so I'm going to cut a little bit of this off. And now this is going to become my background. So I have my back of the pocket, and now I have my background. And this is what I'm going to use to applique onto. And again, using the raw edge applique just makes it so easy. And you can see on here that I use 3 different strips, and this is, yeah, it's about the same size, so I can get away with that. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, what size do I have here? I have 5 inches. I think I have a bit more of this fabric too. I want to make sure I have enough. There we go. So I'm going to cut 2.5-inch strips. All right, we've got 5 inches, and I'm just going to cut it at 2.5. And having a handy 2.5-inch ruler is wonderful, because then I can just measure right to the edge. Now there's a little bit of excess. I want them to be the same size. It doesn't really matter, but it just makes things easier for me. Now, do I have enough to go from side to side? let's see. If I use this to this, oh yeah, look at that. Just barely. So I know I can go ahead and use this. So I really didn't need the extra fabric. I just need to cut this way. So I'm going to put one here. I may be going with only two because this is wider. So that's okay too. And there's no set pattern. There's no rule. All you do is make it work. And, don't get fussy over this. This is just a fun kind of decor item that folks will appreciate and enjoy. So what I'm going to do is take this down to the point, but leave a bit of the point showing right there. And then I'm going to put this here. So the first thing is I have my fabric. I'm going to go sew around this on the machine, but I'm going to sew this first, and then I'll put my applique on the front, and then I'll attach everything to the pocket. I do not want to sew this way because then I'm going to sew my pocket closed. I'm going to attach this, and then I will flip it like this and sew my applique on. Now, you can always go ahead and do the applique, measure down and say, okay, if I come down, say 2 inches, and then come down here, you can do that too. But you know what? I just do it hands-on at the machine. I just sort of, cut and fold and pin and sew and just make it come together. All right, let's get started. The first thing I do is put on my walking foot and a size 16 needle. And that's just standard for any rag quilting, especially when you're using denim, which is heavy. You want that needle to get through, and you want the walking foot to keep the fabric flowing evenly and keep it moving at the same speed as the bottom fabric. Otherwise, you end up with uneven edges over here, and it gets very frustrating. And we don't want that. So I put a red variegated thread on top, and I had some gray fabric that I have in the bobbin already. I'm just using that. I'm not getting particularly carried away. I'm not doing embroidery or anything by any means. So the thread choice is not going to be a huge visible element, because with the rag quilting, the frayed edges are going to cover most of the thread anyways. So I'm going to put my edge of the presser foot right next to the pocket, and I'm just going to sew across one time from front to back. Now we want to do this because we want to allow space to get into the pocket. We do not want to sew on the pocket because then we don't have any access. So I have my pocket on top of the background fabric, and I have wrong sides together. Remember, when we do rag quilting, we put our right sides on the outside, we put wrong sides in the middle, facing each other. And so I'm just going to finish off this end. And that's the extent of that step. That was very quick and easy. With the two pieces attached, right sides facing outward, I am going to do the next step, which is going to go very quickly. And we separate and put our pieces apart with a seam up here. Now I want to add my strips, and I'm going to put my first strip, let me just trim that thread right there, it's kind of bothering me, kind of in line with that seam, maybe say 1/4 of an inch down. And I'm going to sew from one side to the other. Now this is raw edge applique, and I also want it to be a little bit on the raw, the rag quilt side. So I'm going to sew about 1/4 of an inch from the edge. That way this will fray and give me that look that I want. Now, as you remember, I had just a tad shy on this strip. So I'm going to bring it in a little bit from each edge, which is going to work out fine. Remember, this is not a critical measurement by any means. Give yourself enough room here that you can, work with your presser foot. I'm actually going to put it right up to the seam line, because that 1/4 inch gives me plenty of room not to get caught up in anything. So pull these apart so you know you're not going to be getting any wrinkles, and just start sewing from one edge to the other. When you get to the end, just sew right off the edge, trim it, and then we're going to go back and get the other side. And again, we'll come down about 1/4 inch away from the edge and just start sewing. Just as easy as that. So we'll cut this. Now I'm going to place my second piece, and I'm going to kind of feel where the end of the pocket is going to go, which will be right here. So I'm just going to tuck a pin in there so that I know where the pocket will end, because I don't want this all the way to the bottom. I want it up a little bit so that I get enough of my strips showing. The closer you get to the point, the more you'll cut off your strip. So if I go about here, and we want to keep this distance relatively even, and everything looks good here. I'm up a bit from my point, and we're going to go 1/4 inch. Now remember, this looks like it's very close together, but this is going to pull up and this is going to pull up, so we'll get a much wider background visible than what we see here before we sew. All right, let me get to the other side. All right, whoops, I've broken my thread. Let me go ahead and rethread that in my needle, and I'll be right back. With both strips secured on both sides, I'm ready to add my kind of flag stars. And again, this is all very abstract, so we don't have to get particularly worried or concerned about just what we have going. The idea is just to have a fun little iconic image for whatever the event, you know. And if you're doing a birthday, put some layers, some strips, and make it look like a birthday cake. And you know, there's a lot of fun things you can do, or put somebody's name or monogram, initials, and if they have a favorite, whatever it may be, then you know, add that too. Now on the other pieces that I did, I sewed pretty close to this edge, but I'm going to go ahead and go in a little bit because I like the idea of that fraying. So I'm going to come 1/4 inch down from the top, and I'm going to sew 1/4 inch all the way around and meet back at that spot. I'm using this pin to hold close, and let's see, I want to line that up. Yeah, this should be good. Let's see how it goes. Remember, there is no right or wrong. And as it works out, I'm falling right on the edge of the red layer that I put on. So I'm just going to, you know, follow that same edge. Get to within 1/4 inch and come upward. And again, I'm going to follow the edge that I sewed previously for my red strip. And it all just works out really, really well. And just to secure that, I'm going to come down about 1/4 inch. Just to hold those threads in place nice and tight. All right, now one thing when I'm rag quilting, I like to trim the corners a little bit, and I'm going to do this right here now because it'll be easier. And I'm going to show you on this little tiny square an easy way to do your clipping in order to get a good fraying. Now, ordinarily I use my rag quilt snippers, which I'll use on the rest of it, but because this is just a single layer and I'm just going to use this here, I'm going to go across with my snippers. You can use scissors, whatever you want to use. The rag quilt cutters are great because they're stronger, they cut really well, but they have a spring inside, so it makes it easier on your hand. But these clippers have a spring too. I love them. Okay, so I'm going to clip right here because on the red I'm going to clip it practically up to the sewn line, and that way I'll get some good fraying. But what I'm going to do here and I come in a little bit from the corner and a little bit from the corner and a bit in the center. So this is going to allow, let me put my fingernail in there so you can see it. This will allow the threads to fray and get a good, what do I want to say, a good frayed edge without getting any knots. Sometimes when you have a square and you do a rag quilt and leave that square intact, you can get some messy corners and they get knotted. And this way I find that just eliminates it, because by cutting this a little shallower, closer together, then it allows those threads to slip out easily. I'm going to take this middle one down just even a little bit more. Now I'll just finish going around the edge, and I might as well clip that red fabric too. And I'm going to keep it pretty close so I get some good fraying. So we're going to do this corner again. And I'm just doing the blue with the corner. I'm not doing the red because the red is a straight strip. Straight strip. Say that fast 3 times. Obviously I can't. So I'm doing this a little different. On the other ones, I did not clip them like this. I just let them wash and fray and curl over. But I took this a little bit wider and I'm clipping it so I get a lot of fraying. I like that frayed edge look. Okay, so now we're going to work along here, and I'm just going to finish going around and get it all clipped, and then we are ready to go to the next step. All right, let me get this corner and finish it off, and I'll be right back. Well, my front design is all taken care of. I have the raw edges sewn, and I've clipped everything about, 1/4 inch apart. I have my little star square ready to go. So now what I'm going to do is put this together and make sure everything's nice and straight. What I'm going to do is sew from the back. So I am going to just pin this. Now, alternatively, you can also sew this edge right here. If you had other pieces, I think on the other ones, I brought these down closer to the corner, so I did sew across this to keep everything in place. But this didn't need that, so I'm not going to worry about it. And so what I'll do is I'm going to sew around the edge of the pocket. And I'll probably do it twice. Only because I want to make sure that it's nice and tight and sturdy, that it won't fall apart. So I'm going to stitch over the first one. I already did. Actually, you know what? That'll let me know to do the second round. I'm going to start here where I ended. And I'm going to do that 1/4 inch. The 1/4 inch works really well, because that's how wide the presser foot is. And I'm just going to sew through here. Now I am going to check and make sure my clipped edges don't fold down, because I want them to stay nice and straight. When I get to the corner, I'm going to come down a 1/4 inch past that fold, or that turn, and then sew in to this corner here. Do the same, come over a 1/4 inch and turn, and then I'm just going to follow my path again and do it a second time. All right, everything's sewn together. Do make sure that you cut all your threads, because, whoops, there's one here I can't get to. They will stand out. When you have frayed edges, where does that go to? Down here. When you have frayed edges and the threads are in there, the sewing thread is a totally different kind of thread than used in the woven fabric, and it stands out because it's twisted, and it has, I don't know, whatever the coatings are and that they do on that you can see how these are much rougher and looser, and if you have these mixed in, it's going to be visible. Okay, so let's see. Remember when I said flip it over and make sure things aren't twisted? Well, everything looks good over here, but look at what I did. Oh my goodness. Okay, we can fix this, and I'm going to show you how. So when I sewed over, I kind of sewed over my stars. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to slide, and you can do this with scissors or a seam ripper. And I'm just going to cut right along that edge. See where I'm going right close to the stitching. Like this. And then we get up here, and those are in pretty good shape. There we go. All right, now, if that bothers you, the other thing you can do is with your seam ripper, being careful not to cut the red fabric, you can actually pull this out. I do this when I need to kind of move a seam. Sometimes you're sewing and it's like either the seam allowance was wrong. When you, let me just get another section here, cut on both sides of that thread very, very close, that thread will pull out. So let's see if I can do this. So I've kind of cut in between. Let me get it up here because there's a thick area where I can do that. There we go. See how that is going right underneath, and I can come through, and it's only cutting the fabric. It's not cutting what I sewed. And then just sort of scratch over this, and a lot of that's just going to come out. And what little is there is just going to sort of look like a shadow to your blue stars. So, you know, depending on what you want. Oh, did I cut? No, see, the threads are still there. I did not cut the seam. Good going. All right. That's the hard part. So when it gets super thin, you can't really pull this off. But in a situation like this, see how a lot of that's coming? And then I can just start grabbing it with my fingernails and pulling these pieces out. So a lot of it will come out. And again, it'll wash out. So I'm not concerned about that, and I just want to let you see, you know, sometimes mistakes happen, and we just ad lib and make it all work, and it's going to be fine. So my next step is to go ahead and clip this. So first I want to trim it to about, you know, a good 1/4 to 1/2 inch wider than where I sewed it. And so I'll come out about this far and come this far and do the same up here. And because we're going to be doing the rag quilt clipping, we want to cut that corner off. And let's see, we want to keep this somewhat even. Trim that one down. And just go all the way around. And we'll trim this corner off. And we'll do this, even though it's not a super sharp corner down here, it is going to make the fraying results better. So I'll just start down here and because you know how to do the top. And I'm just going to use these scissors because it's only 2 layers. It's not bad. But when you're doing a rag quilt and you need to cut a lot of layers, a pair of scissors, your hand, you're going to get blisters. It's going to be, you know, really sore. There were times I would take like masking tape and just put it like a plastic rubber glove, those disposable gloves on with some tape around it, and then I'd clip. And then I found out, oh, look, they make rag quilt snippers or clippers, whatever you want to call them. Oh my gosh, I love them. And let me just take this out to the corner and just show you how we go this way. So I'm going to snip right there where I cut the angle, and here where I cut it, and then a snip in the middle. And I actually, well, you know what? I have a rag quilt tutorial, a printable tutorial that you can download that shows you how to clip rag quilts. So I'll include that up above too. There's a video that has that. So if you're interested in rag quilts, I will go ahead and put all that information. Just look up above in the description and check out down below, or excuse me, up above in the video and down below in the description. And then I will get all that information for you. And all those are, you know, printable tutorials. You can just save them, download them onto your computer for reference. Or if you're like me, you'd like to, you know, print some of these things out and have a little quick reference notebook. So when you need to know, you can find it and see where it is. I don't always have direct access to a computer when I'm sitting on the couch clipping rag quilts. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get this finished. Now that it's there, all I have to do is wash it and we're done. This is such a quick project and it's absolutely wonderful. Everybody will love them. And here's our finished rag quilt, our little rag pocket, and it looks wonderful. So we have a nice big compartment to hold things, and we've got a good little margin around here to give us our frayed edge, as well as secure everything nice and tight. And it's wonderful. Now, you will notice the size difference because pockets are different sizes according to the jeans that you get, the designer, and the style. So if that's important to you, take a look through and make sure you get the same, or let it be mix and match. That's a lot of fun too. So here we are. I'm so glad you're here with me today. I'm excited to share this, and I hope you decide to do some quilting for one of your next events. I think you'll really enjoy it. As always, it's a pleasure having you here. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.